Oh, welcome in everybody to the Sharp App Countdown and Kickoff Show, NFL Playoffs Divisional Round Weekend Edition. This is going to be a truly special day of football today. By the way, I am your host, Al Walsh. Thank you for joining us here on this Sunday. Typically, we go right up to kickoff. However, the different schedule this week has things a little bit off. Games actually start at 3 o'clock today as opposed to 1 o'clock. So, we got a little bit of extra time. If you're doing DFS, you got a couple extra prop bets you want to put in there. I'm sure if you guys are making your bets or whatever, you already know who you're going with by this point. But, just what a great day of games we got with Rams at the Bucs to kick it off there at 3 o'clock. And then, of course, we got the heavyweight matchup starting probably, 6:40 Eastern time, something like that. We're going to see the Buffalo Bills at the Kansas City Chiefs. So, we're absolutely going to break all that stuff down here in the coming time. BC, a.k.a. The Man, is going to join us on today's show. Always love his insight. He's got some great knowledge. We're going to talk about last night's games. Of course, we're going to talk about today's games, but he's usually got some good quips in there, and I can't wait to hear what he's got to say about Ryan Tannehill because we were both on the Titans last night, and that absolutely sucked. So, I guess we can begin with last night and sort of Aaron Rodgers and where the Green Bay Packers go from here. I mean, this is sort of uncharted territory right now, right? Because, of course, these guys have all been talking about, is Aaron Rodgers going to vacate Green Bay? Well, now we're going to see, right? Now we don't have to worry about rumors or anything like that. Now we're actually going to see if Aaron Rodgers is going to move on from Green Bay. And, it's certainly interesting because, the comments that he made after last night's game where he basically said, if things don't improve, then, of course, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be part of this rebuild mode that's going on. So, now it depends on Green Bay, right? They haven't always made the best GM moves, in terms of, keeping the guys that Aaron Rodgers wants there, the guys that make him feel comfortable. They haven't really accommodated to him. And believe me, there's almost 31 other NFL teams right now that would make those special accommodations to get Aaron Rodgers on their team. So I'm banking on the fact that he's probably going to go to the Steelers. I know the Broncos are another team that he could possibly go to with some weapons out there, but this is really going to be something to watch out here for in the coming days. Washington might even be an outside team that has a chance at him. I know the Giants have all sorts of issues there at the quarterback position. They're going to be looking to make some upgrades. I know it's not going to matter with the draft picks that they got, but I don't know. Maybe they work something out there. This is going to be one of the best NFL off seasons for sure. Of course, Devontae Adams, he's going to watch and see what Aaron Rodgers does, and that's going to dictate where he goes. So definitely looking forward to that for sure. And then, of course, we had the Tennessee-Cincinnati game. I thought Tennessee was going to roll right over Cincinnati. And what we wind up getting is, Ryan Tannehill being goofy as hell, throwing interceptions all over the yard. First play of the game, he gets the interception. Like, you can't come out of the bye week and throw an interception on your first play. Like, that's just absolutely unacceptable to be having that sort of thing going on. Derrick Henry, I think a lot of people felt like he was gonna make his moves throughout the game. Had a couple good carries early, but Cincinnati did a really good job of bottling him up in the backfield. Of course, we had the 4th and 1 play with Derrick Henry that sort of sealed the fate there for Tennessee. You gotta wonder what's going on with the play calling. The 3rd and 1, you got Ryan Tannehill doing a quarterback option. If you knew that you were going to go for it on 4th down, you gotta do something. You got to do something better with that, with your time. It's another early exit there for Tennessee. I know they got the bye week, but, their first playoff game, they lose again. So, Mike Vrabel's got some questions to answer. This is still a good team. I know that they had a lot of injuries throughout the year, but, they're going to be right back in the thick of it. If Derrick Henry's going to be healthy, that's the thing that's going to work for these guys for sure. Got BC coming on here in a little bit. Let me just give them the update that we're gonna go with him. A lot of great stuff here today. My buddy, of course, we got the Buccaneers today, and I just want to let everybody know, right? Like I do have other clothes besides this Tampa Bay Buccaneers sweatshirt, right? Like this is not the only piece of wardrobe that I wear. I've had a couple of people tell me that. But look, when you're a fan of a team, you got your certain garb that you wear for certain games, right? Like when I go out, it's Coronas and JMO shots only, right? I can't drink anything else because it's against the rules of Buccaneer playoff football. I just can't do it. But yeah, like if the Buccaneers get eliminated, sure, you're going to see me with a different sweatshirt on, right? I'm not a suit and tie kind of guy. That's not who I am. And that's not what we're going to be doing here. My buddy Matt Mulhern, who I'm going to get him to tune into the show here in a little bit. He's asking me, who do I like today in the Buccaneers Rams game, right? And of course, there's no other way that I could go with anybody else here. Like it has to be Brady and the boys. You get Brady at home in a playoff game, and that's the best thing that you could possibly ask for. Going to bring in my man BC, aka the man. Right now, you can find him on Twitter at that exact handle, BC, aka the man. So I was just talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Los Angeles Rams today. I definitely want to get your feedback on what happened last night in the two games. But let's open it up here with the Bucs Rams. What are you thinking today?
To be honest with you, what concerns me for LA and what might keep me off of them is you have no left tackle. Now you're missing two safeties. Now, the other way I look at this is what do the Bucs have left in the tank here in terms of what to offer offensively? Normally, a couple wide receivers go down, you make adjustments. Okay, fine. I would expect a healthy dose of tight ends today, especially with Gronk in there and the sort of being Tom Brady's security blanket down in Tampa. But if you kind of make the assumption that Mike Evans can sort of be dealt with by Jalen Ramsey, where else do we go with this football today? So, and the other thing that concerns me for Tampa is Tristan Wirfs. I mean, he can say he's good to go. Of course, he's going to say that he wants to play. He wanted to play last week too. We saw how that went. He was getting bowled over. So we all know that Tom Brady doesn't exactly like getting hit. He actually doesn't like getting touched. So what I would look for in that game, for your guys down there, and I know you're a little partial to the Bucs, but that's
What do you mean? I have no idea what you're talking about.
I don't know where. Sometimes I make things up in my head. I just another one of the wild conspiracy theories that are out there these days, right? Anyway, but yeah, I mean. He was getting bowled over, so now you bring in Aaron Donald and these guys, and you saw,
Uh-oh. BC cutting out here.
What you saw there.
Oh.
What's that?
You good. You cut out for a sec.
Oh, I'm sorry. What you saw there, though, was a mess on Monday night. But if you do bring those guys into Tampa and Tristan Wirfs isn't 100%, that's just not gonna bode well for Tampa. So I would expect a quick passing attack. I would expect Tampa to try to make adjustments and try to maybe take advantage of the fact that yes, the Rams are missing two starting safeties, something that Arizona just never seemed to try to do. So if I'm Cliff Kingsbury and I got a quarterback that can run like the wind,
already been on a hat trick.
I'm probably not dropping him straight back. What is this right here? Okay, we're gonna get rid of that. I'm sorry, that's on me.
Oh, good.
That's on me. Trying to multitask here. But if I'm Cliff Kingsbury and I got a quarterback that can run like the wind, I mean, I'm not dropping him back 5 steps and having him just stand there like a statue. And if I'm Kyler Murray and I could run like the wind, I would run and try to move the pocket and create some difficulty downfield to give my receivers time to get open. So I know DeAndre Hopkins wasn't there for the Cardinals. He's been missing for a while. They have receivers in that team. They have weapons. They have Christian Kirk. They have AJ Green, who's had a big time year for them. They just basically came up and no-showed on Monday night. I don't see the Bucs doing that, but again, I kind of question exactly where this football is supposed to go. There were you got a couple moments last week where Tom Brady was laying into Tyler Johnson and some of these guys for not running through routes. And so maybe they've worked through some of that stuff. I don't know. We'll see. But both of these teams have big question marks. This has been a matchup that has favored the Rams. If you look at not just earlier this year, but last year, they came in there and picked them apart. They had no answer for Cooper Kupp. And if I look at the Bucs, and you may not love hearing this, and I know it's fun to do analytics and go with these big time like next gen stats and everything, but this year in particular, one thing I've noticed is there just aren't that many good teams. And so when I look at the Bucs resume, and I kind of picked apart the Eagles resume last week. I didn't understand why Eagles fans were they were like just blown away that they were manhandled last week. And I was trying to figure out with that resume of wins where you were hanging your hat, Eagles fans. And it was basically just an opportunity to bring your fans down to Tampa and start a bunch of fights in the fans and show what you're really made of and go home. I mean, it was absurd. And then the Cowboys actually made people forget about the Eagles fans. They were so terrible with their behavior. But if I take a look at the Bucs schedule this year, the resume of offenses they faced hasn't really been all that. I mean, you got the Panthers 2 of the last 3 weeks. The Jets were in between there. Home against the Saints, and the Saints are obviously all kinds of banged up. But when they faced the Bills, they did handle the Bills well early. The Bills were a little shell-shocked coming out of the gate, but you saw what happened in the second half of that game. 2 games before that, when they went into Indianapolis, Carson Wentz was up and down the field on them, and obviously the game against the Rams earlier. The other thing that I've noticed about this matchup, and is that both times these teams have played, not just this year, but also last year, both teams didn't really want to run the ball that much, which is kind of weird. Now, I mean, since week 12, just, last 7-8 weeks, Tampa Bay is ranked 31st in defensive explosive run rate. So I don't know if the Rams will maybe try to, throw a little bit of a wrinkle in there this week and sort of change that up. I don't know. But something's going to have to change. Now, no Andre Whitworth. Let me just get back to that real quick.
Sure.
He hasn't exactly been what he's been. The guy's 40 years old. And eventually, I don't consider 40 necessarily old, but in NFL years, I mean, you've been taking a beating on a 300-plus pound body. Something's got to give eventually. He's been he's been kind of a weak link, to be honest with you, the last few weeks on that offensive line. So I'm not quite sure how much that actually hurts them. I think it's advantage Rams. But then again, here the Rams played on Monday night. That matters. They had to go across the country. That matters. And now we have Matt Stafford in a meaningful playoff game. It was meaningful last week, but, you were home. You were playing a divisional opponent, someone you've seen, a couple times this year. You have seen the Rams this year. But let's see now a road playoff game, divisional round. It will be rowdy. It's not like Rams fans really travel. That will be a Bucs crowd. You're not going to have the opposition come in there and kind of get in your back the way maybe the Steelers might if they were playing at LA, or just you've seen the Vikings travel well to LA. Teams like that. So it will be interesting to see if Matt Stafford is up to the moment early. I think the other X factor, and I don't wish the man ill whatsoever, but as a Giants fan, I can say this: Odell Beckham Jr. has found a home in LA. He's found a quarterback that can get him the ball. He has other weapons there that can kind of take the spotlight off of him. And, and a coach. And here's what happens usually with these guys. Once you get to like team 3, the coach is like, look, we all know where you are at this point mentally. I'm not going to put up with your nonsense. Now, you had a little hiccup like that with a certain wide receiver in Tampa a few weeks ago, who made history.
I don't recall.
Yeah, there's very few times.
Rashad Perriman got angry or something.
That's what it was. That must have been what it was. Yeah. It's very rare when I watch an NFL game and I say, yeah, I've never seen that before. But that was like, I've never seen it. I'm never going to see it again. That was like George Costanza dragging the World Series trophy in the parking lot, right?
By the way, I had like numerous offers to go to that game, but I'm like, listen, it's like fantasy playoffs. Like I got a bunch of bets going on. Like, what the hell do I want to go sit at MetLife and watch the Bucs hammer the Jets for? It turns out would have been like the greatest game ever to go to.
Yeah, you would have definitely had some memories there. That's why. And then now he's hanging out with Kanye West. So I'm just trying to figure out who's supposed to be the mentor in that scenario right there.
In the same trio.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out who's supposed to be talking who out of what, calamitous act. By the way, just not to get off topic here because we got bigger fish to fry today. This is a sports show. Pete Davidson better watch his ass. I'm telling you, men have been because Pete Davidson is obviously with Kim Kardashian now, and there's no possible way she likes that guy. We all know what this is about. And Pete Davidson's making a joke about Kanye West literally writing lyrics about killing him. I would go ahead and watch my back. I'm not justifying it, but there's a reason they have the ID channel. Men have been tracked down for much less than what he's doing right now. So I would maybe just get a security team together, maybe just sort of reinforce what's going on.
IG channel, by the way. Big fan.
Anytime someone tells you there's no more movies left to make, just watch that channel. And there's like a movie every hour. It's amazing. I just look like these are real people. Those aren't made up stories. Those are actual real people. But so Antonio Brown's meltdown aside, the Bucs do miss Antonio Brown, and especially now Chris Godwin's not there. So they're going to have to get a little bit creative, and we'll see Byron Leftwich put to the test today to come up with some wrinkles. And obviously Boy Wonder on the Rams sideline will be trying to draw as much attention to himself as humanly possible. And we'll see. To me, that Bucs defense can be gotten. Can the quarterback maintain his head? And also he has an issue now with turf toe. So we all know early in playoff games, adrenaline's pumping. Sometimes you see Ryan Tannehill went first pass yesterday. Was right back to his usual antics. And we were not happy about that yesterday. But We'll see. We'll see how it goes out. On paper, it sets up very well for the Rams. But, this might be a live betting opportunity, maybe a live team total over on the Rams, something like that. I'm not gonna take them pre-game with all the question marks they have, knowing that they're facing a staff and a quarterback that will at least make an effort to take advantage of those weak spots.
I got the account in a decent position today, so I'm going Tampa money line. I know it's minus 140, but I don't listen. Probably, it's probably going to be something like 280 to win 200, something like that, right? Like I'm okay with that. I don't mind that. I know that you're getting juice if you go with the 2.5. I see a lot of people this week real happy with the -3s. I'm not happy that they got the -3. You definitely want to get that below the -3 right there. Try to get that within some kind of score. I mean, that's my thing, right? If I'm paying up the juice for -2.5, why the hell not take it all the way to money line at -140? So
yeah, that move that move is obviously significant. And if you look at enough apps, and you always, just in a general sense here, as we try to sort of educate people a little bit, you always want to have multiple outlets. Number one, first and foremost, and I can almost promise you this will happen today somewhere. These apps crash. These apps are just not designed. I mean, it just is what it is. I'm not going to sit here and bash the people that are in this industry necessarily, but because I'm not saying there's a lack of effort there. Maybe in some places there is, but maybe inexperience, what it is. But listen, apps crash. They crash all the time. When you get a lot of volume and whatnot, sometimes you're going to say, wait a second, I can't get through here. I need someplace else to get my action. But the real reason, assuming all these apps do work perfectly and everything's running smoothly, is that you want to be able to shop for price. And sometimes you'll notice that a team might be -1.5 or -2, and you're -110. Then it's only -130 on the money line. So now you're getting a full 2 points for what, $20, $30 in terms of juice. So you'd want to do that. Also, there are certain scenarios where you have maybe a low scoring game. If you have bad weather and kicking's an issue, now those extra points they're not gimmies. They're certainly not gimmies.
We should be all right today on weather. Both games look like they're going to be good.
They are, but like I said, in a general sense, there are times you just want to say, I'm going to go money line here. And a lot of professionals don't lay 2 or 2.5 points; they go straight money line, because they And the other thing here too is not just the extra points, but the 2-point conversions. A lot of these coaches decide now that they want to go for 2 in different spots. Brandon Staley and some of these guys are psychopaths. They go extreme with it. But yesterday, Mike Vrabel did what I think is the right thing. There was a penalty on the extra point. And you know what? The only wrinkle there was, well, Mike, if you just kick the extra point, you take the lead. And he still went for 2 early. He's looking to make it 8-6 instead of 7-6. So that might have been one where I thought twice. But I think anytime you can put the ball at the 1 yard line
with Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry, and
if you want to go Deonta Foreman, I mean, whoever, that's a team. Like, if anybody was going to go for it at the 1, it was that team. Or if there's anybody that you want to go for it at the 1, that's a team that you want. Not to mention, Tennessee has been like flawless in the red zone all season. I think they put up the number yesterday. They were the best team in the NFL. Like, the number was just ridiculous.
I know how they were in the red zone. That's why I was on the over.
Like rookie mode on that kind of shit. So, they do it. All right. Definitely got to get your opinion on Bills-Chiefs. This is one where I'm going I'm going Bills money line today. I already had Bills earlier in the week, got it at +120. We're seeing the line now. Chiefs -1, -120 on the money line. Bills even money there on the money line. So, what do you make of all this movement? Where are you going? What's your deal?
Okay, so I'm not there. I will be on this. I will be on this game. I'm not yet, and part of the reason was because you mentioned it right there. Movement. There's been so much movement on this line. This line is fluttered all the way. I think at one point it hit 3, and now we're at 1.5 in a lot of places, and it's probably going to keep going. I don't know. To me, the professional side is probably going to end up being Buffalo here. The Chiefs defense, to me, is kind of back to early season Chiefs defense, where they're almost on roller skates. I mean, if you look at them in that game against the Bengals, I understand they have 3 big time receivers there. I get it. Okay. But you can't lose track of Jamar Chase. I'm sorry. You just can't. I mean, you can't
Many teams have.
They have. And if you look at some of those, like if I go back to the Green Bay game, there was a touchdown right before halftime. He should have been shoved out of bounds. He wasn't. I mean, was it lazy? It's partially lazy tackling, and it's also partially him being very, very strong. But you can't have one guy going for 266 yards, 11 catches on 12 targets. I mean, That's all it was. And I know. Listen, if you're the Chiefs, to be fair, I know it's a big secret that Joe Burrow likes the guy. I mean, but my goodness, what are we doing here? And then let's take a look at what happened in Week 18. This wasn't just like a rest of the starters in the second half kind of game. You had the Broncos go for 6.8 yards a rush. Melvin Gordon, 9.2 yards a carry. Busted one for 47 yards. And if not for that scoop and score late in the game, they'd probably lose there. I just don't like what I'm seeing from this Chiefs defense. Offense is all the offensive line is all kinds of banged up right now. I also I can't really look. I'm not going to tell you what's going on inside someone's head, but I thought this would be a problematic year for the Chiefs, and it kind of has been. The defense has been all over the place. You saw how shaky the offense was early on. Here's a team that's won a Super Bowl, then gone back to the Super Bowl and lost. Your starting quarterback has a child for the first time and has a child right before the season. He's got a fiance, the mother of that child, who is let's be nice here. I'm trying to be nicer.
Off the reservation?
I'm going to say she is a bit of a handful. Let's go handful.
Okay.
And then if she's a handful, what on earth is the brother supposed to be? So, this is kind of what happens.
He's a boatload. He's a boatload.
Yeah, he's a load of something. Anyway, but you know what I mean? Like,
a boatload.
You got these guys getting sort of picked apart. You're young, you're successful, you got a ton of money here, and that's kind of like anyone in the NFL, but they've become, kind of cream of the crop, and you almost wonder how much want they really have. When I look at, I'm watching Cincinnati play Alabama in the college football playoff, and there's Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce in the stands watching a game, and you're supposed to be, listen.
I like you taking the Colin Cowherd route on this one. That's exactly this is something that he was, and I love it. I absolutely love it because
I hadn't heard that, but I don't listen. No, nothing against him. I don't listen. Did he say the same thing?
This is like the kind of like outside the game sort of thing that he talks about a lot. Where's your head at? Sort of, where's your motivation? That kind of thing.
Yeah, and you have to do that sometimes, right? I mean, you want to look at numbers. I know, like I said, we're in an age of very complicated stats and everything, and those are great. I mean, I check out next gen passing charts and all that stuff with the best of them.
You are one of the next gen passing chart wizards out there.
Yeah, but you know what? I'll say this. Sometimes you just got to say, what has this team done? What do I think is happening today? And when you spend all that time watching games, whether it's college hoops or whether 9:00 in the morning, we have 3 TVs going watching replays or something, or with NFL stuff, you see enough of this. Sometimes you just got to ask yourself, okay, how do I really see this playing out? I'll tell you exactly what I said on the Air Attack this week. If you get the good Josh Allen tonight, they're not going to be able to stop them. I just don't think so. And I think that if you talk about desire, look at the Buffalo side of the ball. I think that if you look at last week against New England, statistically, it's an aberration, right? That was just an ass kicking. Let's face it. That was just, but more than that, I kind of look back to that Monday night game between the Bills and Patriots, and they played once in between there, and the Bills were obviously much better. But, here they were in the cold again. It wasn't nearly as windy last week as it was in that Monday game. But I just sat there and said, remember when McDaniels and Belichick thought it was hilarious to run the ball 46 times.
Absolutely.
And then you had a reporter needling Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer at the end. I said, you remember all that? Well, guess what? It looks like the Bills did remember, and they're still doing play action and heaving the ball deep in late in the third quarter, early fourth quarter, and they were making a statement. So I don't question their focus. I don't love this whole process where their defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator, who may end up somewhere local, I don't like the idea that they're interviewing for jobs yesterday. I think it's wrong. I think the entire process just has to start after the Super Bowl or at least after the championship games. But I think they'll come in focused. I think those guys will regroup and take care of their interviews, and then they'll focus on the task at hand today. So I'm going to probably be on Buffalo. It'll be up on Twitter at BCAK the man, but most likely on Buffalo team total over, and it'll probably land somewhere around. I just want to get it at 27 or less. If I can get it at 26.5, I think that's big. Like you said, you want to make sure you're getting the better side of those numbers. Just how it goes.
Indeed. So. One thing that you mentioned, by the way, I just wanted to, you mentioned the Air Attack. So go follow, that show there for BC. You can find it on, Twitter, Spotify, iTunes, all the major podcast platforms out there, the Air Attack there for BC. And then too, man, you talk about desire. Think about this, right? Not only the Tampa Bay, LA game, but the Buffalo KC game. The winner of each game today gets to host their respective conference championship game. So I think, you're going to see a lot, these are going to be some hot, very passionate games today. I mean, listen, these are some of the best 4 teams in the NFL, obviously, but, I think, some of these home teams, right? The Bucs, I think they really need that. And, look, KC, I'm sure they're going to get a jolt, but I just don't think it's going to be enough today against Buffalo. I think, I was watching a special today with Josh Allen and and I hate this, right? You watch the pregame shows, oh my God, you get the teary-eyed, emotional story. But Josh Allen talking about Buffalo and how bad they need sort of like a Super Bowl appearance. So if they win today, they get to host the AFC Championship game. That stadium is going to be nuts, bro. Like snowballs going all over the place, dildos flying from the stands. I mean, it's going to be the most wild show. And by the way, like for anybody, like if my mom is listening and she's like, why would he talk about like a dildo flying? Like, no, the Bills fans throw dildos onto the field. Like this is not.
That's true. That is true, Mrs. Walsh. You're just covering the sport. I'm sorry.
I'm a journalist, right? I'm covering the news. That's what I'm doing. I'm simply doing it. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. All right.
Some journalists have to. God.
Yeah.
I'll say this too. I will say this too. Check out in game. Now, like I said, game one, I don't think Rams fans travel that much. You'll have a few there, but what's the difference? You got nice weather in LA. You're not really, the Rams fans are kind of, I don't know. It's kind of a weird fan base, but I do expect the Bills fans to travel. I do. This is another playoff run for the Chiefs. It's the novelty is worn off. I don't doubt that Arrowhead Stadium will be a wonderful atmosphere. It'll be a lot of fun at 6:30 Eastern today. I'm not saying that, but you'll have a few Bills fans make the trip. But if you have an AFC Championship game in Buffalo, oh my God.
Yeah,
you might want to call the National Guard in for that. I'm not even half joking. So
hide your kids, hide your tables.
Yes.
It's going down, folks. All right, let's talk about these games from last night because they were absolutely ridiculous. We'll start with Tannehill. What breaking news to the Sharp app news desk? Ryan Tannehill has thrown another interception, folks. Another one. That makes it 5 over the last 2 days now. I tweeted out that he threw another one, so it's all in there. It's all in there. But talk about again, two teams that had the bye week, as the number 1 seed in their respective conferences, just coming out and laying duds. Listen, I understand it for the Packers. You're going against a really good defense against the 49ers and, inclement weather there in the second half, whatever. You still got to get it done. But Tannehill, first play of the game, coming off the bye week, throws an interception, sets the tone for the entire day. I mean, how does this happen?
He's not very good. And, he has moments of brilliance. I was on, we took an L yesterday. We were 0-1 yesterday with that game. I was on the over. That game set up very well. Yeah, it set up very well for each. And it probably, listen, you say this, sometimes bad bets win and sometimes good bets lose. When that game got tied at 16, I said, okay, we're home because I had 47. And I said, just get each team in the end zone and we'll obviously be tied at 23 and we'll get across the line there. But he has been struggling this year. Now, you wondered how much of that was you take away Derrick Henry, which takes away the effectiveness of your play action. You take away Julio Jones for a time, you take away AJ Brown. Now, when they signed Julio Jones, everybody was just like making a little mess in their pants about how great the Tennessee offense was going to be. And Julio Jones finally started getting hurt last year for the first time in his career. So you knew it was going to take a little bit of time for him to adjust. It's one receiver. Ryan Tannehill just hasn't looked great. Now, some of those bad games, you can, again, look at next-gen stats or just look at the numbers, but be fair about it. You had a bad weather game in Pittsburgh. I think there were 1 or 2 other bad weather games in there. You want to factor that in, and he just didn't have his weapons there. But this was a healthy offensive line for the first time in a while. You got Derrick Henry back. Let's call it 75% healthy. It's still pretty good. You've got a 3rd down and 2 feet. You're basically blowing the defensive line of the Bengals off the football, and you can't get a first down there in the 4th quarter because your offensive coordinator, and Troy Aikman actually keyed on this past week. He said, so many of these offensive coordinators, they're going by scheme instead of going by what's out there, and they're making the game way more complicated. And here you got an offensive coordinator who I think was their tight ends coach last year in Tennessee, and he's calling some sort of complicated play with misdirection when you need like this far for first down, and you got Derrick Henry back there, but no, let's fake this and let's go here. And then Ryan Tannehill gets swallowed up and did well to get close to the line of scrimmage, and they get stuffed on 4th down. The play calling was atrocious there. Didn't do Ryan Tannehill any favors, but that first interception was kind of like something that set the tone for the day. His offensive line could have done a better job, but his coaches didn't do him any favors either. He was missing throws left and right. And then Joe Burrow, I tell you what, Joe Burrow better do something with his playoff run. I'm going to tell you why. The kid got sacked 9 times yesterday. Right?
Yeah.
9. He had 60-something yards worth of sacks. I mean, his receivers had 348 yards receiving, but the team only had 270-something yards passing because of his nonsense. And again, his coordinators didn't do him any favors, but I mean, you drop back. How many times are you going to drop back and stand there flat-footed and wait for the defense from from Tennessee to just inhale you. I mean, including one of these where he gets sacked, like takes like a 13-yard loss and gets him sacked at a field goal range. So his sort of, Joe Cool, that this like, I don't know, this sort of dead-eyed swagger that he seems to have. It's like, who are you kidding, kid? And they've got, by the way, NFL teams have like a season and a third worth of film on him so far. I mean, he fell ass backwards into that win yesterday. That was ridiculous. And a nice throw at the end. I mean, that was a great throw to get him into field goal range at the end. Give credit where it's due. And Tannehill had a great throw on that touchdown pass to AJ Brown, kind of going back shoulder there. Okay, fine. But both these quarterbacks were very, very shaky. The game set up well for each offense. And it just basically, to me, hey, playoff jitters are a real thing, not just for players, but for coaches too. And I thought the coaches had a dreadful performance yesterday, and so did the quarterbacks. And Cincinnati was extremely lucky to get out of there. The other thing you could see, Mike Vrabel was interested in one thing on that last drive, and that was running the clock. And you see what happens. You get a little tentative, and now you put your quarterback in a situation where he has to throw. You get another tip pass, and there were some drop balls yesterday by both teams. Again, talk about nerves or whatever you want.
And I think too, we have to give a lot of credit to the Cincinnati Bengals defense. This is a unit that I talked about all season. And, going into this game, I just did not think that they were going to match up against Tennessee's run game. And, man, they let me have it. They were like, dude, you bet all this money on me all season. They were probably like one of the top teams that I bet on all season. And, and the defense was a big part of it at the beginning of the season. And then it became, sort of the Burrow show and whatnot. Just, they were a great team to bet on this year. But I did not see them being that good against the run against Tennessee.
It's kind of, I'm with you there until we get to like the third quarter, and Tennessee was just picking up gobs of yards on the ground.
With Foreman, not even Henry.
Yeah, that didn't shock me. How many touches did I really think Derrick Henry was going to get? How many hits they wanted to take? Where was his win going to be? You could see him. He looked a little tired yesterday, and it's not a discredit to him. It's just you can't replicate game situations. You just can't, especially when you're nursing the guy back.
He did hit his over on carries at 17.5 too, by the way. Frank Amarante, my boy, had that great call yesterday.
Okay, so and he did look a little tired, but Deontay Foreman has held his own, and again, a lot of times running backs are more a function of offensive line. I think Derrick Henry would be one of the exceptions to that rule. I didn't think you were getting 100% of Derrick Henry yesterday, and in fact, if you kind of thought this through, if the Tennessee Titans had success on offense and got up by 10 points, and Derrick Henry was 100%, then that would kind of lend itself to a running clock and maybe work against you if you had the over. So I didn't really think it was going to be the Derrick Henry show all day. I thought they'd mix it up, and I thought they would air the football out. Ryan Tannehill just wasn't very good, and I do give the Bengals defense credit for being better this year. But they've gone to basically being what I would call a decent defense. But where they've come from is where your eyes kind of jump off what you're looking at. They've come from being a horrible defense, and so the improvement's been good, and so I give them credit for that. But that was, to me, that was Tennessee basically gifting them three interceptions and not taking advantage of opportunities, like we said, with that third and fourth down. And then Mike Vrabel at the end of the game deciding he was going to be the last one to have the ball, except he wasn't. So, just hey, listen, that's just how it goes. I mean, it got freakier in game 2. So it's just how it goes sometimes in the playoffs, and that's it. You only get one shot there, and you move on, and whoever made those mistakes goes home and has a long time to think about it.
And you got to give a lot of credit to McPherson, the young kicker there for the Bengals. 4 field goals in each of the last 2 weeks. Dude's been absolutely money. I remember earlier in the season, I bet on the Bengals in that game against the Packers with all the missed field goals and shit. And he missed 2 of them. And I'm like, where the hell is this today, my man? Like, why? Why you got to do this to me? But he has been absolutely amazing. And that's been one of the things, right? Like, I thought going into seeing that the Bengals got 4 field goals against the Raiders defense that I don't think anybody's scared about, that was kind of one of my points going into this week too, is that, yes, I think Cincinnati's going to get more field goals. Like, I kind of expected 3 to 4. I still like the over, but despite that, I know that's a good kicker. So that's something that we got to look at going forward for next week too, because, it's probably not going to be in a great kicking condition one way or the other. The AFC Championship game, though, is the 3:00 slate. So, maybe they get a little easier weather conditions there. And then, we got to talk about, the Niners-Packers game. Packers defense pretty much dominated that entire game, although Niners get the blocked punt there at the end for the touchdown, really sending things into a spiral. I really thought the Packers were going to absolutely destroy the Niners in this game. I didn't, Jimmy G with the banged up shoulder, with the finger, I thought that was going to play a huge factor. Really hasn't been a guy that's played a lot of games in the cold weather. Didn't matter. Niners ate the Packers alive over the middle of the field. And again, while they didn't score any points, well, maybe they scored 3 points off of it, or 6 rather, but didn't get any touchdowns out of it. That second half, middle of the field, they were getting absolutely destroyed by the 49ers. And ultimately that is the difference, right? Because Aaron Rodgers doesn't have the ball. They can't run the football. They can't go score points themselves. That's how they kept the game close. Did you see that the same way?
Yeah. So now listen, I did nothing on this game. I had looked at this as
by the way, I just want to say I split. I had Packers first half and then lost the overall.
Okay. So at least you were able to come out of there, clean, right? Or close to it. So that's good. I really wanted an opportunity. I've been big on the Niners this year. Had them in week 18 over the Rams team total over. Had them again as a teaser leg last week against Dallas. So if this were played anywhere else or any other kind of conditions, I probably would have been on them again yesterday in some fashion. I might have been. Now, I'm not going team total over when it's 0 and your quarterback, like you said, Jimmy Garoppolo, 0 career starts when it was freezing. I looked back to see the last time the Niners had played in these kind of conditions. The last time they played a cold weather game, Blaine Gabbert started at quarterback. I'm not kidding. So, and that was when he was alternating back and forth with His Majesty Colin Kaepernick.
I thought you were going to say the last time was actually Kaepernick at Lambeau.
Last year. It was his last year. So, they just haven't played like this. And look, and you're playing it's one thing when you say, okay, it's a California team, they're going to Green Bay. If it had been like in the 30s or 40s yesterday, everyone's played in those kind of conditions at some point in their lives. But when you get down to the 20s and you get down to the teens, I think we talked about this before. When you get down to where it's that cold and you have real feels near 0, every degree sort of feels like 5 degrees. It's like have you ever gone to like wing night where it's like, oh, you can eat wings, and it's like, oh yeah, you get like a dozen wings and you get like 6 more. Then after like wing 18 or so, every wing kind of tastes like a whole chicken. Like it feels like you're just shoved. That's how the degrees are when it's that cold, and it's going to affect body movement and everything else. And last night, so we were kind of in. I'm not going to get into it. We were a little bit of celebration mode around here for something that happened this weekend. Not like that. Don't think that. Not that.
Okay. All right.
No. But anyway, something good happened this past weekend. So we were out. And so we were out and about at the Chart House in Weehawken, and then walked over to Ruth's Chris, which is like right down the street, and ended up having 2 dinners last night. So
whoa.
Well, because it was like, let's go have because we went out early. No, blame the NFL for this nonsense. I'm not going to miss games. And one person in the group, and it was a 2-person group, and I was not me, but I won't say who. Right. One person in the group's running late, so we don't get the Chart House till like 5:00. So it's okay. You go there, you have a couple drinks, and you have some dinner. But then, you go to Ruth's. Okay, now it's like 3-4 hours later.
That's a hell of a double header.
Yeah, I'm surrounded by sizzling steaks and all this stuff. I'm just supposed to sit there and have a drink. I'm like, I could see myself eating. And next thing you know, there's a porterhouse coming out, and it's just complete gluttony. It was terrible. Anyway, but we're watching the game there, and those are not places I would go during a regular NFL, Saturday or Sunday. But in this case, standalone games, they have it on TV. They have nice TVs at both places actually. So we're catching this, and at one point I said, there's snow is starting to stick on the field. So besides the fact that your body movement is actually constricted by how cold it is, and I know they have treatments for these things, but my God, once you get to third or fourth quarter, the guys, it's like they're running in sand because their bodies your muscles can't get the extension. Right. It gets dangerous. You started seeing guys in the Niners dropping like flies. The Adebo got hurt at the end there. I think George Kittle got banged up at the very, very end, but they're also slipping and sliding. So everyone wanted to make yesterday about how well the defense has played. Well, of course, the defense has played well. The guys on offense couldn't move. The Packers were very, very vulnerable over the middle. The Packers defense has been up and down all year. Remember that game on Christmas Day where the Browns just ran it down their throats, averaged close to 9 yards a carry. And then the other thing is their red zone defense has been atrocious this year. Jimmy Garoppolo gave them one gift on that 1st and goal from like the 20-something yard line. So
thank you. Got the Niners, first half of that. Thank you.
Yeah, it did. It did you a favor there. Ultimately, though, everyone seems to want to make this about Lambeau Field lost its mystique. Aaron Rodgers just doesn't have, if he'd been vaccinated, it might have been like all these like insane like narratives from yesterday. Bottom line is
clearly it's working so well for everybody else.
Yeah, I think I tell you, I'm watching this people with like this venom towards him. And I'm like, have you not seen the news of the last 3 days, whether it's from case counts or natural immunity, maybe not being the worst thing
narrative
in the world. And some people, it's amazing how some people just miss the boat on that and they just kind of keep going and going and going. And it's, to me, I said this on the Air Attack this past week. This subject is like a lot of subjects. It's just basically a test of your intelligence and of your character. And sometimes you have to say, you know what, I was wrong about this. But because now there's like a political tie into it, people just don't have the integrity to say, you know what, I was wrong. Not to mention this. I've been hearing since August that football was going to kill people. I've been hearing it since the first week of never mind NFL. August, when you have packed college stadiums everywhere, then Labor Day weekend, you're talking about 60, 70, 80,000, sweaty, screaming, mouth to mouth, elbow to elbow. You're like there's everyone on top of each other.
It was like something that happened in a certain summer. Sounds familiar.
That's okay though. That's different. That's different because
is it
COVID
okay,
knows. No, the COVID knows. If you break a window while you do it, it's different. The COVID
I wasn't
knows.
sure. I wasn't sure.
So you know what I mean? And it's just like, when are we going to knock this off? Not to mention, back in May, we had major league players testing positive left and right. So you knew there was something up with these vaccines. Sports, if it wasn't for sports, I think they'd push this down your throat for another 3 years, honestly. But sports have proven two things. The vaccines don't keep you from getting stuff, number one. And number two, you're probably going to be okay if you go to a game. You're probably going to be okay if you play a game. So this nonsense, people laying into Aaron Rodgers and he misses the Chiefs game. And it's like, so who got hurt by Aaron Rodgers not being, it's dumb. And yeah, Terry Bradshaw, going off on I think he does Fox, right? So him and everyone else in the studio, Jimmy Johnson, they're just so upset and so embarrassed and so ashamed because of Aaron Rodgers. Who the hell? Nothing bad happened by him testing positive or anything else. And now, like I said, remember the last time I was here, I told you the NFL would figure out a way to get these games in. Well, guess what? They're not even testing the unvaccinated players anymore. And Josh Allen's one of those guys. Josh Allen's one of those guys going to play today. He's the greatest guy in the world, right? So how are you making him out to be the greatest guy in the world, but somehow Aaron Rodgers is some bad guy? That never made any sense to me. But yesterday's game was just an anomaly in terms of weather, and something crazy had to happen for San Francisco, and it did. And the thing about Green Bay, if you really want to talk about Green Bay, it's their special teams. The special teams have been a disaster in that team most of this year. They should have addressed this after the Chicago game on Sunday night. They didn't do it. The next week they go into Baltimore. They were terrible on special teams in that game. It almost cost them the game. It cost some of us a teaser leg because yeah. And I'm looking at this and I'm saying, my God, special teams, when a team in the NFL is vulnerable on special teams, where, the kick returner is making a mistake. He's fielding a punt to the 2-yard line instead of letting it go. The punter is getting rushed and getting close to being blocked or being blocked. You do something about it. You make it a change. You shift some personnel around, or you just get sharper in practice. None of that ever happened with the Packers, and it cost them. And you saw this year that breakdown. Remember last year against your guys, the breakdown right before halftime, and Scotty Miller,
my man.
So you're looking at basically two inexcusable situations that have knocked the Packers right out of the playoffs in front of their fans the last 2 years. It happens, but when it does, it stings a lot more. I'm sorry, but Matt LaFleur is going to have to take a little bit of this one on the chin. But I don't care about Aaron Rodgers' numbers yesterday. He was hard on himself, but Jimmy Garoppolo struggled yesterday. Everyone's going to struggle in that weather. It's crazy weather,
Absolutely.
but it's fun to watch.
Absolutely. I know you're a Giants guy, right? You guys have done some damage to the Packers here, but it's a thing. The Bucs went in there last year. So you got to wonder, but they might not even have the Rodgers to get them there after, this point nowadays. What do you think about his sort of, path going forward? Do you think he stays in Green Bay or he's going to be elsewhere?
I don't know. I think this might be it for him in Green Bay. And I'll tell you, like the Lambeau Magic. I remember, what Michael Vick went in there 1 year ago, and this was kind of like when it sort of turned.
That was a hell of a performance.
Yeah, it was. And, I was like, oh my, Michael Vick. I mean, now he played at Virginia Tech. Okay, fine. But like, you think
that was Madden's days too when he did that.
Yeah, it was. But you think like Falcons dome team. No way. Yeah, he went in there and they just had like I remember the fans of Green Bay just being stunned there. yesterday would have been stunning too to watch, right? Because the Packers looked like they had that game in hand for like 95% of the game, right?
Absolutely.
And by the way, I'm surprised Kyle Shanahan didn't go for 2 after that. I thought he might have said, you know what, I'm winning this game right here. I was surprised. Now, Robbie Gould, I have faith in.
Think about that.
No, he didn't. And I said we were at dinner. I said they got to go for 2, and there was this disagreement in the crowd, and all of a sudden, no, he was right there. No timeout, nothing. Anyway,
Robbie Gould has never missed a postseason kick.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, those guys matter more than you. People are like whoever. Kickers, who's kicking for this team? Kickers matter a lot, I promise you.
Absolutely. 20 for 20 after the game-winning kick last night.
Okay, impressive. So, but what was, more stunning yesterday to me, and there's like an added wrinkle, Kyle Shanahan and Matt LaFleur now have some bad blood because in the postseason, I forget exactly how this went down, but there was some kind of conversation between Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh of the Jets, and Mike LaFleur is the Jets offensive coordinator.
Okay.
And basically, Kyle Shanahan was kind of trying to get to him, and somehow, some way, shape, or form, when Aaron Rodgers was unhappy with the Packers, remember back in the summer.
Yeah, I remember this. Yep.
Yeah. So basically, Kyle Shanahan was picking a play for Aaron Rodgers, and it has caused a rift between the two. They barely shook hands after they played the first time this past year. So that really, I mean, this really, really had to irk Matt LaFleur. Not that you want to lose any time in the playoffs, but there was just like salt in the wound and maybe a little peroxide, a little lemon juice in the eye on top of the hit they took yesterday. Ironically enough, could I see a scenario where Aaron Rodgers ended up in San Francisco? Maybe. And the only reason I say that, you say, what about Trey Lance? The way they've handled Trey Lance in San Francisco has been very odd. It almost leads me to believe that they're not opposed to trading him somewhere. So would they look to trade him to Houston for Deshaun Watson? I don't know if they could do that.
Or they give him another year. I don't know. It's weird, right? Because Lance was a guy that played at North Dakota State, wasn't necessarily going up against the greatest competition. I know his last season, I think he only played one season as a starter, if I'm not mistaken, and he had no interceptions in that season. I don't know. I might be mistaken. Obviously, not the biggest North Dakota State.
So what happened? I'll tell you what happened. He played one college game last year. With COVID, they were only able to get one. I think they played one game against Boise State last year, and so that's all he had to put on his resume. I think he might have started more games than that, but I'm not positive.
Okay, but so then it must have been the season before then. But I know he had a full season without throwing an interception. So
but I don't know what they're doing with him. I don't know why they wouldn't bring him into goal line scenarios, especially as shaky as Jimmy Garoppolo's been. And that's what kept me off the game yesterday. Was I'm not putting a guy with a bad hand and a bad shoulder in that scenario and backing him. And he did do his best to throw a pick six yesterday. He could have thrown 2 or 3 actually. It was crazy, right? I mean, it really was crazy. I mean, if you played that game, I don't know, if you played that game like 100 times, based on what I saw yesterday and how the quality of play of every player involved, the Packers probably win like 93 of them. You know what I mean?
That stings a little more now that you brought that up. I completely forgot how many the Green Bay secondary guy went for, the body instead of the ball. And
it was it happened several times. I'm like, they're going to get one of these.
The one at the end where the guy went, I guess he went to the outside instead of to the inside. I guess he was just trying to end the dude's life, but it was like, dude, look up. You have the whole thing. Know that you have Jimmy Garoppolo throwing milk jugs out there, fucking floating in the air. Like, hey, look, we used it for Roethlisberger last week. It still applies to Jimmy Garoppolo, but
that's right.
Absolutely great stuff today, BC. You going out at all today for the games? Come on, join me at the Rock for the Bucs game today.
Possibly. This is a day where you might get me out because I am kind of. We are. I don't know. We'll see. It's been twice in a row.
3 o'clock start. 3 o'clock.
Possibly. That's why you might get me. You have standalone games and you have a later start, so you might actually get me out the door today. I'm basically 50-50 right now, so we'll see. 50% chance of BC. Put that in your forecasts, and we'll update that as the day goes on.
50 is better than the 0 that I got this season. So
pretty much.
On, let's make it happen.
Listen to me. I'm not trying to pick on any establishments in particular, but we know about the whole TV scenario and how I am about that. I will say this about the chart house when we're talking. I'll say this: after the first game ends yesterday at like 7:40, I get, hey, how do you think they're going to do with the TVs here? I go, no chance. There's no chance they get them to Fox in time. Within like 3 or 4 minutes, they only have 2 TVs. They're big. They were on Fox. I mean, if you're talking about places who pay all that money for the Sunday ticket, have bartenders who are basically somewhere on Planet Z when it's time to change over. Here you have an upscale. You're talking about if you guys know the restaurant's basically in the Hudson River. It's on a pier, so you feel like you're in the water looking at the sky. It's great. Nice setting and everything like that. And you're sitting there, and they were on top of it. I could not have been more impressed. Hey, listen. When you have integrity, like right here, hey, you admit when you're wrong, you admit your mistake. I was dead wrong. They were on top of it, so good for them. But yeah, today, standalone game, it's possible. It is possible. You might see me out and about today.
Let's get it done. By the way, I think next football season, we might have to do a podcast of how establishments handle their TV situations. I thought we had such a great discussion last week. I think that opens the door for maybe next year, hey, listen, if I have to go out every week for NFL Sunday, so be it, but who knows? I might actually be going into the corporate world too, so I might not even be able to.
That's right. I know. Yeah, I know.
We'll see.
What happens then? Are you allowed to do this show if that happens? What goes on there? Because you could have a little sponsorship deal with, is there a conflict of interest? How does this work?
Yeah, I have no idea. I finished up my, of course I have to tease it. I can't tell anybody, but I had my last round of like an editing test for a particular sports book out there. So we're going to see,
Wait a minute. Do you think you're watching now?
No, definitely not.
Good. Thank God.
When I interviewed for the position, I gave him a couple of clips where I was talking about that particular sports book and how great the deals that they have are. They also told me though, if I work there, I can't have an account there anymore. So
can you wait a second now? Here's my question, but can you have an account somewhere else?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Well,
fine.
so here's the thing. I got a buddy, Paul, the guy that I do taking sides with. He works at BetMGM, and he's not allowed to have an account anywhere. So
Yeah, I've heard that.
This being another book, they did say you just can't have an account here at this particular book.
That's interesting. And some of the other, I'm not going to get into names, but some of the other platforms in the past have had an issue with employees on the DFS level.
Absolutely.
And you know what I'm talking about too.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I understand why those are the rules. I get it. In some places, I don't think you're allowed to do anything. They basically tell you if you're going to work here, you just can't bet.
So
and that's obviously,
I was heavy in the DFS game when that happened, and that was monumental. That happened at the beginning of November, and there was a huge DFS conference in right in Times Square, pretty much like that coming up weekend when they banished DFS from New York City. So everybody who was at the conference, basically, this was like the early days of picketing and rioting and shit like that. Like, everybody from the conference went down there to City Hall, came back up, did the conference. Like, it was pretty cool. Like, it was almost like it was scripted. I mean, I don't think anything like that would ever happen in our world, but it was interesting to have all those people out there sort of, protesting the whole thing. But of course, the guy from DraftKings was using ownership percentages to work to his benefit, and that's why we even
that whole situation was absolutely preposterous, and it was them, and it was obviously the other one too. And this is another thing too. And it's nothing. I'm not trying to bash anybody. And some of these places have gotten better, but when I see places telling you, well, if you want a 6-point teaser, you got to lay 134. Well, then you got to go somewhere else.
Absolutely.
6-point teaser, you should be laying 120. And I get some journalists arguing with me. Well, hey, if you make a bad bet, that's on you. Well, how about when I see a sports book last year, and this was during the Green Bay and Tampa game, where they're offering a live wager that you cannot win. In other words, it was Green Bay and Tampa, and the Bucs were dominating that game, and you could have taken Green Bay plus X amount of points at one point, or maybe -2 or -3, whatever it was, and the under. Well, mathematically, it was impossible for both those things to happen, but they were offering the wager. I don't think that should be allowed. And, when I look at their history with some of the DFS stuff, it doesn't bode well for them. And then when you call them out, people get upset with you as if you're doing something wrong. And I'm like, no, you know what? At the end of the day, what I'm trying to do is give good information to people. Now, if you're going to offer a wager that nobody can possibly win, okay, basically what you're saying to your customers is that you're too much of a moron to catch this. Now, some people would just kind of gloss over it, or in the heat of the moment, or maybe they've had a couple pops, right? Maybe because it's a 4:30 game, maybe they are 7-8 beers deep, White Claws, whatever they're doing that day, right? So maybe they're not going to notice. But you know what? Don't get mad at me for screenshotting it and then putting up basic math and saying, there's no way Green Bay can get within 3 and the total can stay under 55. What is wrong with you? And if you have a problem with me pointing it out, well, then guess what? Maybe you have a problem with you doing it to begin with. Maybe that's where this goes. So knowing their track record with DFS, that's why you kind of wanted to be on top of that stuff. Now, I will say this. The biggest concerns for a lot of people in New Jersey were, am I going to be able to get paid in a timely fashion? Never had an issue with that. I've never had an issue with
these books have been amazing.
Yeah, once in a while, there's a technical glitch with getting a deposit through or something like that, but they've never left me in a situation. There's been customer service issues where I'm like, why am I on the phone for what is this crap? Like 40 minutes and no one's answering the phone or something.
Or honestly, you do the live chat and you keep going around in circles with
they go away. I've had that happen where they've gone away. I'm not trying to pick on those two. It's other places too. So I've never had a problem with, but we're talking about like FanDuel or DK or anything like that. Just to be fair, because everyone knows who we're talking about here, I've never had an issue with money, and that is the one thing where you'd have a real big problem. You'd have a problem with actual getting your money out. That was an issue with offshore sites. That has been an issue, by the way. I can only speak for New Jersey. That has been an issue here with some people that I've talked to and some of the lesser known books. When you say, oh, they're licensed, they're bonded, and they would be like, I see, certain personalities on Twitter, and again, follow me on Twitter at BC, aka the man. You see it right there on your screen. But I see personalities who represent other apps or whatever saying, well, this company could never do that because then they'd lose their license. Lose their license how? Who am I complaining to? Go see what it takes to actually complain about a sports book in New Jersey. You think you go file a complaint on Monday, you're getting your money on Thursday? You're not. So if some of these guys want to play games with your cash, they actually kind of could if they wanted to. That's really a discredit to the state. And obviously any business that wanted to act that way. But those companies have straightened up a little bit. Now, there's never been an issue, though, that, where I felt like my money's there and I'm not going to be able to get my hands on it. Not to mention, if I want to get my money out of FanDuel, I would just drive there. I could just drive to the Meadowlands and do what I had to do anyway. So
That always shocks me. Like, there's a lot of people that like to go to the sports book there at the Meadowlands, and I'm like, bro, like, you don't even have to deal with all those mutants. Like, you can just be on your phone and do this from the couch or the bar or wherever. Like, you could be out walking the dog place in a bet. You can get this done. And I also wondered, right? So, and this was, I feel like it was a fair criticism at the time. Now I look like an absolute idiot with it, but it's like, back in the day when DraftKings and FanDuel first started getting involved in betting, I said to myself, like, more like I saw what they did with the DFS commercials where they pushed it, like basically down your throat until you couldn't get enough of it. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And they admitted like that was their marketing strategy. Like they absolutely did that. But I wondered kind of how that was going to go with betting. Like, were DFS players going to feel sort of like neglected now that DraftKings and FanDuel sort of went all in on betting? I can tell you for a fact, one of those companies that I worked for, like on a, what do you call that? Like a, I don't know, like I was hired by a company to do work for one of these companies, and we went to the offices, and there was basically, it was like dust barrels rolling around the entire place.
Like the room, right? Like
there was like three people
here, but
and this is like 2 years before COVID, right? Like this is way before that. So I don't know. I wonder how much they really do care about the customers. I'm just saying, like Caesars and BetMGM, I feel like those are the two best in terms of, trying to take care of you as a customer.
Because think about it this way. Now, FanDuel's got some place you can go and bet. I don't recommend it. If you haven't been there, I'm not saying it's a horrible thing. Go there, have a drink, have fun if you want to do it, but don't go there on championship.
Bet on the little ponies and shit too.
Yeah, you could if you wanted to make a whole day. In fact, I jokingly said on the ride to Chart House yesterday, I said, hey, you just want to go to the racetrack instead? And I just got like this. There's like the death stare. Then there's the death stare. Then there's the stare that says, what is wrong with you? What is that even supposed like? What is that? I actually got this. What does that even mean? And I said, okay, I was making a joke. There was a time you could go and have a nice dinner at the Meadowlands. And I mean, like a nice one. I've done it. I've been there, like, for like business trips or like business dinners, whatever. But like this a long time ago. But you could. I
caught a touchdown the last time I was there.
There you go. Very good. So there was a time when that wouldn't be like the most horrible thing in the world, but it is going to be very crowded there. There are issues at windows with staffing and whatnot. The other thing is this. Sure. If you're on your phone and you're just sort of dilly-dallying around and trying to poke stuff in your phone or whatever, and I did have a live wagering hiccup last week with the Niners and a Dallas game. I actually was trying to go team total over for the Niners live, and it jumped up to like 30.5, and I said, okay, I'm not doing this. I started walking, and I hit send by accident. And I only say this because I want to be the guy that educates other people so they learn from my mistake. And I was like, oh my God. And of course it never came close because the game kind of slowed down. And
by the way, Niners plus 3.5 and money line last week.
Yeah, very good. But like when you're doing that with yourself, it's like, okay, you're taking your time, you're trying to figure out what's going on. There are people who go up to the betting machines and even the windows at these places now, and especially because it's kind of new, and they do that right in front of you. And so you're sitting there like, what the hell's going on? So if you were trying to make a live in-person wager, it would be a fool's errand because you wouldn't be able to, because they just don't have enough machines. And when it gets crowded, they don't police the people. If I were running a place like that, I'd say, listen, you got 20 seconds. Otherwise, you do something to get out of there. And people are still looking down at stuff. And so that's a little caveat. But what's nice about Caesars and BetMGM is you have a company that has properties in, let's say, Atlantic City or Las Vegas, and they can package some of their incentives there to sort of attract customers that way. And they care about, well, listen, this guy also might be a guy that wants to go see a comedy show at Borgata and go for a nice weekend and maybe do a little gambling. But these are companies that specialize in things that aren't just gambling. Like Las Vegas isn't a drop your money off and leave town anymore. Right. Las Vegas now is a really 360-degree, even like a family town when it comes to entertainment now. So they do have a vested interest in not alienating people. Sometimes, with FanDuel and even DraftKings, there's nowhere to go for DraftKings. It's just completely online. You do get the impression that it's sort of like, hey, give us your money and leave us alone. And nothing against the girl. I've never met her, but I'm starting to really dislike the Make It Rain chick. I mean, that got old so long ago. They're trying to basically appeal to lottery players and basically say, listen, you know what, let's, throw your 9 or 10 leg parlay in here. And you definitely want to check odds, even if you say, okay, this parlay pays 120 to 1. It might pay 180 to 1 down the digital street, so to speak. You definitely want to keep an eye on that. Hint, hint. But they're trying to attract a certain kind of player because even though a couple people will get these big balloon sort of payouts, most people are betting against each other and will lose, especially if they're offering crappy odds. It's very much to their advantage. If you look at the winnings and how sports books make their money, the parlays actually make as much money as all of it put together. So nothing against Paulie parlays per se. Anybody who wants to throw in something fun out there, I think that's a great way to bet sometimes because you are risking a little, you can win a lot.
That's his moniker.
But if you're looking for like that as a money-making endeavor, I tell you what, sports books will drive you there because that's how much they want you there. So just a little.
That's right. We gotta get the what do they call that? The shuttle, right? From Bayonne straight. Oh my God, dude, you'll get like 60 going out at the same time.
Yeah, they actually, I think they were doing that for a while. There's actually an off-track betting place for the horses in Bayonne. I think for a while they were actually busting guys in from Staten
Right around
Island.
the block from me, BC. All you gotta do is just go right over the train tracks. I know the road's not there, but you just.
I'm looking at these guys and I'm like, I got a free ride, right? And I'm like, yeah, they're not busting you in because they're losing money on you, dude. So go ahead, yeah, take that free ride. You win. You've already won.
All right, I'm gonna be hitting up BC behind the scenes here. You're coming out. We're watching this game today. Bucks by 1 billion, Bills by 1 billion. Just looking at some of the different things that the coaches had today. I know Statstational, my man. He's a guy that plays golf at Pebble Beach, so that's a guy that you definitely want to be following bets with. He's got Buffalo plus 1.5 today over Kansas City. I like that. I took it a step further and went with the money line, but we know Statstational, one of the best in the biz there. Looking at some other plays here, I think we had another guy that had Buffalo too. Where is he? Drew had Drumheller had Buffalo today too. So that's where the Sharp app guys are going. Not a lot of big plays there with the Rams. I saw Philly Godfather threw out a prop bet today. Odell Beckham first touchdown plus 1,200. So that's an interesting bet there. Listen, I hope the Rams don't throw any touchdowns today. But
I know you do, but remember something, the Rams have had a lot of success against this Bucs team, and that was without Odell. So he's definitely benefiting from being a little bit of a wild card, and not to mention, it's tough to cover him and Cooper Kupp. You got a decent tight end there in Tyler Higbee, and guys that can catch passes out of the backfield now, especially with Cam Akers back. So yeah, Odell Beckham to me is the wild card, and it's like they got rid of Deshaun Jackson. They brought him in, and that's an upgrade because he can do, he can burn just like Deshaun can, but he can also run the shorter routes, and obviously he catches pretty much everything there is to catch. So
he had a prop bet. So it started. Opened. I got to use my betting terminology. 46.5 for over receiving yards. Pretty sure that got absolutely hammered. So we saw it move up to 48.5. Where his prop bet is today. I think that's super low, but you know me, right? I zig when they zag. I feel like that's somewhat telling. He might not get that. Bucks defense, healthiest they've been in a while. So, obviously we're going to see, right? Like it seems absolutely ridiculous that Odell Beckham would go under 48.5 yards, given what he's done the last few weeks, now that he's getting comfortable with Matt Stafford. So that is a prop bet that I'm going to be watching out for today for sure. And then I think that's going to do it for the show today. Obviously, just two great games today. I know that we usually do the kickoff show right up to kickoff. However, odd 3:00 start time. I couldn't do it at that time. So that's why we're on today. So, BC, thank you for joining us for pretty much an entire hour. Always great to get that in. And, hopefully we'll get more time in today there. And by the way, everybody that's listening, you just come down to the Rock in Bayonne, New Jersey today. You come down. You just enjoy yourselves. All right. For me, BC, rest of the internet.
Remember who told you to come down there. I can't guarantee the experience down there. Plus, if I'm there, it probably doesn't get much better. It doesn't matter. Yeah, you know what? I tell you what, if you come down, at least you get you and I for free, right? So that's not bad.
That's
right?
true. And there's shuffleboard and cornhole. So it's all good.
The marks of any great establishment in 15-degree weather. Absolutely.
Indeed.
Okay. Are we done?
We are done. We are done, folks. All right. Good luck tonight. Peace.